I am 33 years old, considered an old maid by society's standards, and in a fit of rage, I married a 55-year-old cook from my company's cafeteria. After the wedding, the CEO called me into his office and asked, "Do you know who you married?" What happened next left me speechless. 33 years old, an age where, according to my mother back in our small town, my shelf life had already expired. A heavy burden that caused sighs of resignation from the entire family every time we gathered for a holiday dinner. I am Emily, the marketing director of a massive corporate group in the city. I manage dozens of people. I earn a six-figure salary. I drive my own luxury car, and I live in a high-end condo. But all that shine faded the moment I crossed the city limits into my hometown, faced with a single, harsh truth. I did not have a husband. That afternoon, a summer storm poured furiously over the city, washing the dust off the streets, but failing to calm the rage burning in my head. I had just walked out of a fancy coffee shop downtown, ending the umpteenth blind date of the year organized by my great-aunt Linda. The man's name was Ryan, 40 years old, an administration chief at a government agency. He had barely sat down without giving me time to escape the heat when he scanned me up and down with the look of someone buying produce at a grocery store. "So, 33?" he said. "Well, you are not bad looking, but I suppose it will be hard for you to have kids now. My mother says that after 30, women are like expired fruit." I froze, gripping the handle of my purse tightly, trying to maintain a forced smile. But he did not stop. He stirred his iced coffee with a monotone voice, as if he were dictating the internal regulations of his office. "Look, let me be clear. I need a wife who knows how to obey. I do not care if your salary is high or low, but as soon as we get married, you will have to quit your job. My mother is elderly and needs someone to take care of her 24/7. You are used to giving orders. Will you be capable of bending down to wash your mother-in-law's feet? And I am warning you, in my family, we are 3 generations of only children, so you have to give me a son the first year, or you will put me in a tough spot with the elders." My patience shattered like a glass slamming against a marble floor. I jumped up. I threw a $50 bill onto the table and said coldly, "I am paying for the coffee. As for washing feet and birthing sons, hire a nurse or buy yourself an incubator. I am too busy making my own money." I left the man with his mouth open and walked out to the street to hail a cab. I had barely sat down when my phone buzzed persistently. The screen read, "Mom." I hesitated for a second and hung up. I knew exactly what she was going to say. The same old song as always, that Ryan is a good guy, that he has a stable job. What am I waiting for, that she does not want to die without seeing me married? "Where to, miss?" the taxi driver asked, interrupting my exhausting spiral of thoughts. "Take me to that dive bar on 5th Avenue, the one on the corner," I said. "I need a drink. I need a place that is loud, crowded, and lively to forget this depressing reality." The bar was a regular meeting spot for office workers in the area, but today I had not called anyone. I wanted to drink alone. The place was packed. The smoke from the grill smelled deliciously of greasy burgers and fries. I chose a table in a secluded corner. I ordered several appetizers and one beer after another. The cold beer went down my throat, bitter, but alleviating my discomfort a little. I drank one after another, watching people laugh and talk around me, feeling terribly out of place. Everyone seemed to have a partner, or at least friends. Only me, at 33, successful and attractive, was pathetically alone. "Emily? Is that you, Emily?" A deep and familiar voice resonated. I squinted my eyes. In front of me stood a middle-aged man in a faded polo shirt, worn-out corduroy pants, and some yellowish sneakers. "Matt," I said with a thick voice, recognizing him. Matt was the cook in my company's cafeteria, a man who served food to the employees every day with a kind smile. I remembered him because he often snuck me an extra portion of pot roast or a roasted chicken leg, saying, "The boss is too thin. Eat to have strength to yell at your employees." "What are you doing here alone?" he asked. sitting across from me with a worried look upon seeing the empty bottles on the table. "It looks like you have had too much to drink." "I am very sad, Matt," I confessed, resting my head on the table while tears began to flow. The alcohol loosened my tongue, and all the frustration accumulated over so long spilled out like a waterfall. I told him about my mother's pressure to get married, the jerk from the date that afternoon, the whispers behind my back calling me a bitter spinster. Matt listened in silence, occasionally pouring me a glass of water. His hands, calloused from work, gently pushed the glass toward me. His silence was not indifference, but the understanding of someone with experience. He did not advise me to be less demanding as everyone else did. He only sighed softly. "People live to be happy, Emily. Why suffer over what others say?" he said with his deep voice. I looked up and met his wrinkled eyes. Under the yellow light of the bar, I found a strange peace in that man. He was not rich. He drove a beat-up old truck that backfired, and his clothes always smelled like food, but he had never made me feel pressured. He was like a bowl of hot soup in the middle of a greasy banquet, bland to others, but comforting to me in that moment. A crazy thought crossed my mind, a thought that, remembering it later, I still do not understand how I dared to initiate. "Matt, listen. Are you married?" I asked him, grabbing his sleeve with a drunken voice, but with a strangely determined look. Matt was startled. He pulled his hand away and smiled bitterly. "Why would I be married, woman? My wife passed away a long time ago. Now I live alone." "Then marry me." The world around us seemed to stop for an instant. Matt looked at me with eyes wide as saucers, as if he were seeing an alien. "Emily, you are very drunk. Let me call you a cab so you can go home." "I am not drunk," I exclaimed, slamming the table and standing up so abruptly I almost fell. Matt rushed to steady me. The heat of his rough hands transmitted to my shoulders, firm and secure. "I mean it. I am fed up. I need a husband so the world will leave me alone. You are good, kind, and you cook wonderfully. Marry me. I will support you. I have a house. I have a car. You will not have to worry about anything. You just have to pretend to be my husband to introduce you to my parents back in my hometown." I looked him directly in the eyes, waiting. In my drunken state, I felt like a gambler betting everything on the last card. Either he accepted, or the next day I would want the earth to swallow me up from shame. Matt observed me with a complex look. There was surprise, compassion, and something deeper I could not decipher. He remained silent for a long while, so long I thought he was going to leave. Then he let out a sigh and nodded slightly. "All right. If you do not mind marrying this poor old man, I accept." I burst out laughing, a broken laugh mixed with tears. "You gave your word." "Tomorrow we go to the courthouse." "Yes, tomorrow to the courthouse," he replied with a firm voice. I let myself fall onto his shoulder and fell asleep, wrapped in the smell of cooking and the salty aroma of a hard-working man's sweat. I felt light, as if a weight of 2,000 pounds had been lifted off me. I did not know that impulsive decision, made in a drunken stupor, would change my life in a way not even the best screenwriter could have imagined. The intense sun sneaking through the curtains hit me full in the face, waking me with a grimace of pain. My head felt heavy as if it were filled with lead, and my throat was completely dry. Blindly, I searched for the water bottle on the nightstand and drank it in one gulp. The memories of the previous night returned in fragmented waves, but enough to cause a shiver. The bar, Matt, the marriage proposal, and the courthouse. I sat up abruptly and looked around the living room of my luxury apartment. On the coffee table next to my purse was a paper folded in 4. I picked it up with trembling hands. It was a note torn from a notebook, with firm and clear handwriting. "I am going to work. Tomorrow at 8 I will wait for you at the courthouse. Do not forget your ID, Matt." The world spun. It was real. It had not been a dream. I, Emily Richardson, the powerful marketing director, had just forced a 55-year-old cook to marry me while intoxicated. I sat on the sofa for 15 minutes, paralyzed. Cancel everything? Call him? Apologize and tell him it was a joke? But then I remembered Ryan's face and my mother's shrill voice. If I did not marry Matt, how many more disastrous dates would I have to endure? At least Matt was a good person. He was kind, discreet, and most importantly, he respected me. A marriage of convenience. Both parties would win. I would get the status of a married woman, and he would get a more comfortable life. I gritted my teeth, got up, and went to the bathroom. All right, in for a penny, in for a pound. When this Emily makes a decision, she does not regret it. The next morning, Matt and I met in front of the courthouse doors. He was wearing a white shirt with a somewhat worn collar, but impeccably ironed, black dress pants and leather shoes that were old but well polished. Next to me, in my designer suit, he looked even older and worn out by life. The process was surprisingly fast. The clerk looked at us with curiosity but asked nothing. When I had the marriage certificate in my hands, I felt a strange emptiness. It was done. I was a married woman. You go back to the office. I am going to the market to buy some things for the kitchen, Matt said, uncomfortable, fiddling with the hem of his shirt. All right, be careful, I replied, feeling just as weird switching to casual terms with him. As soon as I set foot in the office, I noticed a strange atmosphere. People were whispering in huddles. Upon seeing me pass, they fell silent abruptly, only to go back to snickering quietly as soon as I turned my back. Rumors spread faster than a virus. Surely someone had seen us at the courthouse, or worse, in my pitiful state the other night. Hey, Boss Emily got married to Matt, the guy from the cafeteria. What weird taste she has. Maybe she was desperate. Well, what a catch Matt is. Who would have thought? The quiet one took the rich boss. It is clear, a match made in desperation. Or maybe she is pregnant and it was a shotgun wedding. The words reached my ears with hurtful clarity. I squeezed the folder I was carrying in my hands. I lifted my head and walked with a firm step toward my office. Let them say what they wanted. I lived for myself, not for them. Knock, knock. Someone knocked on the door. My assistant poked her head in, pale. Emily, the CEO, wants to see you in the boardroom right now. By her tone, he seemed quite tense. I felt my heart drop. James, our CEO, was barely 30 years old. He was a young businessman of great talent, but famous for his coldness and high standards. In the 3 years I had been working for him, he had never called me to his office alone, unless it was about a massive project or a serious problem. Did my personal life affect the company's image? I straightened my clothes. I took a deep breath to regain my calm and went up to the top floor. James's office was immense, with panoramic views of the entire city. He was standing with his back to me, looking out the window. The atmosphere was dense, heavy. "Did you call for me, James?" I asked, trying to make my voice sound calm. James turned around. His attractive face was hardened, and his sharp eyes pierced me as if they wanted to read my soul. He threw a file onto the table. The dry thud of the paper startled me. "Explain this," he said. I looked down. It was a photocopy of my marriage certificate with Matt. I stood frozen. How had he gotten it so fast? "It is my private life," I replied firmly. "I do not believe it affects my work. That my husband is an employee of the cafeteria does not violate any company policy." James sketched a contemptuous smile, a smile full of sarcasm and bitterness. He walked closer, leaned his hands on the table, and inclined his face toward mine. "Do you think he is just a cafeteria employee? Why did you marry him? For money? Or do you think, by marrying him, you are going to rise to the top and step over me?" I frowned, understanding nothing. Money? Matt had no money. Step over James? What nonsense was that? "I do not know what you are talking about. I married Matt out of affection. He is poor, but he is a good person. I do not need anyone's money. I know how to earn my own." "Poor?" James let out a laugh, a sound that echoed in the enormous room but held no joy. "You say he is poor?" He walked to his desk and pressed a button. A projector screen slowly descended. A slide appeared with the shareholder organizational chart of the Hercules Group. "Look closely," he said. Pointing at the screen, I squinted my eyes. In the highest position, next to James's name, who owned 20% of the shares, was another name with 30%. It was the majority shareholder, the co-founder of the group who never appeared at meetings, Matt Peterson, my husband's name. My head spun and my legs went weak. I had to grab onto a chair. "Matt Peterson, the cook, he is—" I stammered. "He is my father," James finished, spitting every word with his gaze burning. "The person you just married this morning, that fake cook you thought was poor and humble, is the shadow chairman of this corporate group. He is my father. Congratulations, Emily. You just became your boss's stepmother." I stood paralyzed, as if the world had collapsed at my feet. I had married a cook to escape pressure, and it turned out I had married a hidden tycoon who, to top off the irony, was my boss's father. Not even in my wildest dreams could I have imagined a script this insane. I do not know how I got out of James's office. I only remember walking like a sleepwalker to the parking lot and driving to the address my husband, had given me. It was not a luxury mansion as I had imagined after discovering his true identity. It was an apartment in an old housing block in a working-class neighborhood in Queens. The walls were peeling and the staircase was narrow and dark. I went up to the 3rd floor and stopped in front of a wooden door painted a faded blue. I knocked with a trembling hand. The door opened. Matt was there in the same simple clothes from the morning, holding a bunch of freshly washed parsley. A delicious aroma of pot roast and fresh bread floated in the air, bringing me back to reality. "Emily, come in. I am making lunch. It is almost ready." He spoke with total naturalness, as if the fact that I knew the truth had not happened, or as if he did not know that I knew. I entered. The apartment was small, barely 400 square feet, but it was incredibly tidy and clean. There were no valuables, just a shelf full of cookbooks and business books, and a small altar carefully tended to. On the altar was a photo of a beautiful woman with a striking resemblance to James. It must be his mother. I sat on a worn wooden chair, watching Matt bustle about in the kitchen, that hunched figure with slightly slumped shoulders. How could he be the man who owned 30% of a multi-billion-dollar group? "You know James spoke to me, right?" I asked with a hoarse voice. The sound of the knife in the kitchen stopped. Matt wiped his hands on his apron and brought a tray with the food to the table. A clay pot with a beef stew that looked spectacular, a plate of fish and green sauce steaming, a tomato salad, and a bowl of freshly cut bread. A homemade meal, simple and comforting. He sat across from me and served me a generous plate. "Eat first. With an empty stomach, you cannot think clearly. We will talk later." I looked at the plate and then looked at him. His serenity irritated and impressed me in equal measure. I picked up the fork and tasted a spoonful of the stew. The flavor was intense, delicious. The beef melted in my mouth. It was so good I almost started to cry. How long had it been since I ate such an exquisite homemade meal? Not even the most luxurious banquets with clients could compare. When I had eaten half, Matt began to speak calmly. "James has a temper. Surely he scared you. I'm sorry." "Why?" I said, putting down the fork and staring at him. "Why did you hide your identity? Why does a man as rich as you hide in a company cafeteria so people look down on you and your own son misunderstands you?" Matt poured himself a glass of wine, took a sip, and looked toward his wife's photo. "Years ago, James's mother and I started the business together with a small food truck. She was from a good family, a lady, but she left everything to be with me. When the company became a huge group and we had more money than we could count, she fell ill with cancer. In her last days, she did not want exotic delicacies. She only asked for the stew I used to make her. That was when I realized that by making money, I had forgotten about family meals." His voice broke, full of emotion. When she died, money lost all meaning to me. I handed the management over to James and the partners, keeping only my shares to ensure my son's future. I missed the kitchen, the flavors, so I asked for a job as a cook. There I felt like myself. I watched the employees enjoy the food, heard their daily stories, things I never would have heard as chairman. As for hiding my identity, I wanted James to learn on his own. If he had known his father was behind him, he would have gotten comfortable. And besides, I was afraid of women who approached me only for my money. I wanted to find a true companion, someone who loved the person I am, who loved my fake poverty. He looked at me with sincerity. Yesterday at the bar, you said you would support me, that you wanted me to be your husband, that you did not care about my poverty. Your words made me believe you were the woman I had been waiting for. Emily, I know you are in shock, but I really want to take care of you. I do not need you to be the chairman's wife, only the wife of this cook, of Matt. Would you accept? I was left speechless. His explanation was not grandiose, nor did it seek excuses. It was so sincere it hurt. This man had reached the peak of success, only to return to the most essential values of life. I looked at the table, the half-eaten food, his gray hair, and I thought of my own loneliness in my luxurious and cold apartment. I had been looking for the perfect husband, but it turned out perfection was found in the simplest things. I understand, I said, hesitant. But what about James? He thinks I am a gold digger. He will not leave me alone. Matt smiled, a kind smile that revealed the cunning of a man seasoned in business. James is smart, but he is still too young to judge people. I will prove to him who you are. I just need you to be by my side. Let's keep living as we have until now. At the company, I will keep being the cook and you the director. At home, I cook and you wash the dishes. How does that sound? I looked into his eyes and felt a solid trust, a security I had never experienced with any younger man. I do not know how to wash dishes. I always break them, I mumbled. Matt let out a laugh. Then I will wash too. You just have to eat and give orders. That is what a boss is best at, right? In that instant, I knew I had embarked on the biggest gamble of my life, but this time I had a feeling I was going to win. Not win money, but win a safe harbor in the middle of a stormy life. All right, I accept, I said, taking a piece of bread and dipping it in the sauce. I offered it to him, but you have to promise me that whatever happens, you will always take my side against James. I promise you, he said firmly. The first meal of our unequal marriage passed in that small apartment, without candles or flowers, but with an unusual warmth. I did not know what storms tomorrow would bring when facing James and my family, but at least today I had a delicious meal and a husband willing to wash the dishes for me. The next morning I entered the company with the mindset of a soldier preparing for battle. The rumors about my marriage had undoubtedly become the main topic of all internal chats, but I told myself I had to keep my head high. I had done nothing wrong. I had married legally and, most importantly, a decent man. I had barely sat down when I received an email from Human Resources. The subject line, in bold, hit me in the eyes. Appointment to senior management. I clicked to open it and my eyes widened as I read the text. Effective immediately, Ms. Emily Richardson is appointed Vice President of the group, responsible for communications and international relations. The new salary tripled my current one, not counting bonuses and stock options. I was stunned. Vice President? It was the position I aspired to reach in the next 5 years, but not this way. I picked up the phone intending to call James, but my office door flew open. James entered with an impassive face, followed by the head of HR. "Congratulations, new vice president," James said, unable to hide his sarcastic tone. "It is a welcome gift from the Peterson family to their new stepmother. I hope you are satisfied." I stood up and looked him directly in the eyes. I knew what he was thinking. He believed I had used Matt to climb the ladder. He wanted to humiliate me by throwing that position at me like charity. I do not accept it, I said sharply. I do not have the capacity or the experience for this role. I want to rise on my own merit, not for being the chairman's wife. James let out a mocking chuckle, stepped closer, and lowered his voice so only I could hear him. Stop acting. Wasn't this your goal when approaching my father? Accept it. But remember, the higher you climb, the harder the wind blows. Let's see how long you last. Besides, it is my father's idea. He wants to keep up appearances. It would look ridiculous if the wife of the majority shareholder was just a department director. Having said that, he turned around and left, leaving me nailed to the spot. The HR manager looked at me with compassion and left the appointment letter on my desk. Emily, sign it, please. This afternoon you move to the new office on the 20th floor. I let myself fall into the chair, feeling a wave of humiliation. Matt wanted to do me a favor, but unintentionally he had put me in a very difficult position. Now I could neither reject it nor accept it without being accused of being a climber. That afternoon, while moving my things to the new office, I felt the looks of envy and contempt following me down the hall like pins. What luck! From nothing to the top. As soon as she got married, she got promoted. They say the husband is much older. Surely she knows how to please him, so he pampers her like that. Talent? Yeah, right. She used her charms. I squeezed the cardboard box with my documents, trying to hold back tears. I entered the new office, much bigger and more luxurious than the previous one, but also much colder. I placed a picture frame with a photo of my family on the table. My parents, back in the small town, still knew nothing. If they found out I had married a man my older brother's age and that people despised me like this, it would break their hearts. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Matt. I know you are sad, but take it as an opportunity. You have talent. Use that position to prove to everyone that you deserve it. Do not let your pride make you quit. Tonight I will prepare a good stew to comfort you. Reading the message, my heart calmed down. He was right. I could not change the prejudices of others with words, only with facts. I would occupy that position and do it better than anyone. I would prove to James and the whole company that Emily Richardson was vice president because she deserved it, not because she was Matt Peterson's wife. I dried my tears, turned on the computer, and started drafting the strategic plan for the next quarter. The war had only just begun. 3 days after assuming the position, the first challenge arrived. The Hercules Group was in full negotiation to merge with Sterling Construction, a real estate giant. The contract, valued in hundreds of millions of dollars, could catapult Hercules to another level. The problem was the president of Sterling, a man of old-school values famous for being extremely demanding and eccentric. He did not like negotiating in boardrooms, but at the dinner table. And not just any five-star restaurant would do. It was rumored he had a palate so refined that with just one bite, he knew if the cook had put their soul into the dish. He had already rejected 3 potential partners just because the welcome meal had not been up to par. In the emergency meeting on Monday morning, the tension was palpable. Sterling just informed us that their chairman, Mr. Sterling, will visit us tomorrow at noon for an informal lunch at our headquarters. He has asked for a traditional meal. No international menus, announced James with a worried voice. I have contacted several Michelin-starred restaurants, but none dare to accept with such short notice. Besides, Mr. Sterling is a known connoisseur of authentic, rustic cuisine. If this lunch goes wrong, we can consider the contract lost. The whole room fell silent. All eyes landed on me, the new vice president of external relations. Emily, any brilliant ideas? James asked with a challenging tone. I took a deep breath. It was my chance to prove my worth, but also a deadly trap. Where was I going to find a chef capable of cooking a high-end traditional menu in less than 24 hours? Suddenly, the image of Matt appeared in my mind. His dishes, his meticulousness, his deep knowledge of gastronomy, and the story he once told me in passing about his family of cooks. I have a proposal, I said, standing up with a firm voice. Why don't we use our own company cafeteria? I know someone who can prepare that banquet. The cafeteria? A director blurted out with a mocking laugh. Are you joking? Serving a VIP client food from the daily menu? It is not menu food, I insisted. I propose Matt Peterson, the head chef. James frowned, staring at me. He knew what I was trying to do. He knew his father's talent, but he was afraid that his father would have to exert himself, afraid that his identity would be revealed, and, perhaps, afraid of having to acknowledge his talent in front of the employees. Are you sure? James asked through his teeth. If this fails, you will assume full responsibility before the board of directors. I bet my position on it, I replied, returning his gaze. Upon finishing the meeting, I ran to the kitchen. Matt was directing the staff for lunch. Upon seeing me arrive in such a rush, he wiped his hands and took me to a corner. What is wrong? Why are you in such a hurry? I explained the situation to him. Upon hearing Mr. Sterling's name and the requirement for traditional food, a strange shine appeared in Matt's eyes. He remained thoughtful for a moment and then nodded. Mr. Sterling is an old acquaintance. All right, I will cook. You know him? I asked, surprised. We know each other a little. He is a great gourmet, but also a man who values loyalty. Do not worry, I will not let you look bad, but I will appear only as a cook. Understood? I do not want people talking more than necessary. I understand, I interrupted him, smiling to reassure him. You are the cook, Matt Peterson, an employee under my charge. I will do my duty. I looked at him, feeling immense gratitude. For me, this man was willing to abandon his retirement and return to the stove to face the storm. I spent the whole afternoon and night in the kitchen with Matt. I witnessed an amazing transformation. He was no longer the affable, everyday cook. In front of the work table, Matt became a true artist. His hands moved with incredible agility, chopping and dicing. Every piece of meat, every vegetable, was a perfect size, as if measured with a ruler. His gaze was completely focused, serious and full of authority. He gave orders to the kitchen assistants with a firmness that made them sweat, but no one dared to reply to his imposing presence. I stayed by his side, wiping his sweat in silence, preparing him a glass of water with lemon. Seeing him so absorbed in his work, I felt a strong pang in my heart. Turns out a man is more attractive than ever when he is doing what he is best at. Tomorrow's main course will be a signature lobster bisque with a hint of cognac, Matt said while meticulously preparing the stock. It is a traditional dish that requires great delicacy in the combination of spices and herbs. If done right, its flavor can awaken all the senses. I looked at the ingredients presented impeccably, giving off a soft aroma of herbs even before being cooked, and I felt deep admiration. My husband, the man I married hastily in a bar, was truly a hidden master, and tomorrow the whole world would have to recognize him. The next day at noon, the group's VIP dining room was decorated with elegance, but maintaining a warm and welcoming atmosphere. Chairman Sterling arrived punctually. He was a man of about 60, with gray hair, a distinguished and serene air, dressed in a stylish, cream-colored linen suit. 2 assistants and James accompanied him. I waited at the door and greeted him with a respectful nod. Mr. Sterling returned the greeting with a gesture, while his eyes scanned the table, still without food, with certain indifference. I heard that today Hercules is offering us a homemade menu, he said with a soft southern accent, but with a commanding voice. That is right, Mr. Chairman. It is the creation of our head chef. We hope it is to your liking, replied James, with his forehead beaded with sweat. He was visibly nervous. The first course arrived, a salad of fresh heirloom tomatoes and roasted peppers, a simple dish but presented on fine ceramic tableware, garnished with some scallion shavings. Mr. Sterling picked up the fork and tried a small bite. The whole room held its breath. He chewed slowly, and his brow, until then furrowed, relaxed. The dressing is very balanced, a fresh and clean flavor. The produce is of high quality. Not bad. I let out a sigh of relief. James also wiped his sweat discreetly. Next, the main courses arrived. Pan-seared sea bass in a green sauce with clams and a sirloin steak in red wine reduction. Mr. Sterling tried them all and nodded with approval. The atmosphere at the table began to relax. He started talking about projects, about his urban vision. It seemed the path to his approval was getting closer. Finally, the star dish arrived, the signature lobster bisque. A hot clay pot was placed in front of Mr. Sterling. As soon as the lid was lifted, a cloud of white steam rose, bringing with it an intoxicating aroma of seafood, brandy, and an almost imperceptible, spicy touch. Mr. Sterling froze. He breathed in that aroma deeply, and his hands, upon picking up the spoon, trembled slightly. He did not taste the dish immediately. He closed his eyes as if savoring or recalling a distant memory. "This aroma," he murmured. "A touch of flambéed tarragon. I haven't smelled this in 20 years." He took a small portion and brought it to his mouth. The instant the flavor touched his tongue, I saw clearly how his eyes reddened. He put down the spoon and stared at James and me, his voice broken with emotion. "Who? Who cooked this dish? Bring him here right now." James got scared. "Excuse me, sir. Was it not to your liking? I will order it changed immediately." "No," exclaimed Mr. Sterling, slamming the table and startling us all. "It is not that I do not like it. It is that it is sublime. In this world, there is only one person capable of cooking this bisque with this flavor. My mentor, my older brother figure, the descendant of the 10th generation of the Peterson family, cooks for the high society. Bring him here." James and I looked at each other dumbfounded. "Mentor? 10th generation?" The dining room door opened and Matt entered. He had changed his chef's uniform for a simple linen shirt. He stood there, smiling kindly at Mr. Sterling. "Ignatius? Long time no see?" "Mister." Sterling jumped up, ran towards him, and hugged him tightly, tears falling down his cheeks like a child. "Matt, my God, it is you. Where have you been hiding these 20 years? I have looked for you everywhere. In the culinary world, they said you had hung up your apron to retire to some lost place, and it turns out you were hiding in a company cafeteria." The whole room exclaimed with astonishment. The waiters, the assistants, and above all, James, could not believe what they were seeing. Matt, the cook of the Daily Special, was a gastronomy legend, the mentor of the chairman of Sterling Construction. Matt patted his friend on the back, smiling sadly. "The past is the past, Ignatius. No need to stir it up. Today I cooked to celebrate your agreement with Hercules. What do you think? Have I lost my touch? It remains masterful, as always, brother. That bisque, that deep flavor of the seafood cooked just right, the aroma of the brandy. Only your golden hands can create something like that." Mr. Sterling turned to James with a serious expression. "James, I am signing the contract with Hercules. There is nothing more to discuss. The simple fact that you are Matt's son already gives me absolute confidence in your integrity and your word, like father, like son." James was paralyzed, looking at his father with a mixture of veneration and regret. He had never known his father was so great in the eyes of others. I, meanwhile, had stepped aside discreetly, watching my husband shine, with a pride running through my veins. This man was my husband. I had bet my entire life on one play, and now I knew I had won big. Matt turned to look at me, and his warm gaze was a silent thank you. He took my hand and brought me closer to Mr. Sterling. "Ignatius, I present to you Emily, my wife. It was she who convinced me to return to the kitchen today." Mr. Sterling looked at me with sympathy. "Delighted, ma'am. You have a very good eye. Getting Matt is a blessing." I smiled, squeezing Matt's hand. "I know, sir. I was very lucky to find him." The lunch ended in an atmosphere of euphoria. The contract was signed right there on the table. The news of the return of the king of the kitchen and that he was the father of the CEO of Hercules spread like wildfire. Those who had mocked me now had to swallow their words. My position in the company had changed completely, not for being the chairman's wife, but for being the only woman capable of making that legend wield a kitchen knife again. 2 days after the resounding success of the contract signing, the atmosphere at Hercules was overflowing with optimism. People looked at me differently, no longer with disdain, but with a mixture of curiosity and certain fear. They did not fear my talent, but the enormous shadow of my husband. However, as soon as one storm subsided, another approached. That afternoon, while reviewing a marketing plan, the receptionist called to tell me someone wanted to see me in private. "Who is it?" I asked, without taking my fingers off the keyboard. "She says her name is Brittany, and she is the CEO's fiancée. She claims she has an important family matter to discuss with you." I stopped. Brittany. I had heard James mention that name sometime. The daughter of a major financial group, a perfect match for the Peterson family. But I had never met her. Why would she want to see me? "Let her in." The door opened and a young woman entered. She was beautiful, with that sharp and haughty beauty of an heiress, pampered from the cradle. She wore a silk designer dress that fit her perfect curves and a Hermes Birkin bag. She took off her sunglasses, and her eyes, perfectly made up, scanned my office with cheek before fixing on me. "Hello, Emily," she said with a sweet but icy voice. "I had heard a lot about you. Finally, I meet my James's stepmother." I stood up and smiled with courtesy. "Hello, Brittany. Please sit down. Do you want tea or coffee?" "No need to be so polite," she said, rejecting the offer with a gesture and sitting on the sofa, crossing her legs. "I did not come to drink tea, but to speak clearly." I sat across from her, maintaining calm. "I am listening." Brittany took a check out of her purse, left it on the table, and slid it toward me. "Here is $5 million. It is enough for you to buy a villa in the suburbs and start a small business. The only condition is that you divorce Matt and disappear from James's family's life forever." I looked at the check and then at Brittany, and I let out a giggle. "We are in a soap opera, Brittany. Do people still use these methods?" Brittany smiled smugly. "Do not play dumb. You married Matt only for his money, right? A young, pretty, educated woman like you would never fall in love with an old cook if she did not know he is a hidden tycoon. I am giving you the opportunity to retire with honor. My family and James's are about to unite. Your presence, that of a person of humble origin, stains the good name of our two families." Her words were like a bucket of cold water. Not only was she insulting me, but also my feelings for Matt. "Look, Brittany," I said, looking her directly in the eyes with a firm voice. "First, I married Matt without knowing how much money he had. Second, a person's worth is not measured by their origin or their net worth, but by their behavior. You may be very rich and very pretty, but the way you throw money in others' faces is frankly very cheap." Brittany's face tensed. She slammed the table. "You dare to lecture me? Do you know who my father is? With a single snap of his fingers, you can lose your entire career in this city. I do not care who he is. Your father—" I stood up and pointed to the door. "This is my office, not a stage for your rich girl dramas. You can leave and take this check. Use it for charity. Let's see if that way you gain some decency." Brittany jumped up, red with rage. She grabbed the check, tore it to shreds, and threw it at me. "Very well. If you do not want it the easy way, it will be the hard way. You will regret having challenged me today." Having said that, she turned around and left. The sound of her heels against the floor was strident. I followed her with my gaze, with a vague sense of unease. She was right about one thing. Her family was very powerful. This battle would not be as simple as I thought. After the encounter with Brittany, I tried to focus on work, but her threats resonated in my head. I knew she was not speaking idly. Rich girls like her have a massive ego and stop at nothing to get what they want. Leaving work, I drove home. As soon as I opened the door, the aroma of a freshly made chicken soup flooded my nostrils, dissipating part of my tiredness. Matt was in the kitchen and upon seeing me smiled. "You are home. Today I made soup with the broth I started boiling this morning. Wash your hands and come eat while it is hot." I looked at his kind smile and felt a lump in my throat. I did not want to worry him with external problems, but I did not want to hide it from him either. During dinner, I told him about Brittany's visit. Matt's cheerful face darkened. He put down the silverware and sighed. "That girl, Brittany, has always been very competitive. Her family has spoiled her too much. I am sorry you had to go through this." "Do not worry about me," I took his hand. "I am just worried she might cause problems in your work and James's." Matt patted my hand with a firm gaze. "Relax. Even though I am retired, I still keep my contacts. Brittany's father respects me enough not to dare do anything foolish. And as for James, he is grown enough to know what is right and what is wrong. If he takes her side to hurt you, I will not forgive him." His protection comforted me, but I knew I could not hide behind him forever. I had to face it myself. 2 days later, Brittany contacted me again. This time, it was not at the office, but to invite me to a high society charity tea. She sent an invitation in my name, as wife of Mr. Matt Peterson. It was clearly a trap. She wanted to exhibit me in public to humiliate me. I thought about it a lot and decided to go. Running away was not the solution. I chose an elegant designer dress, did my makeup discreetly, and projected an image of sophistication. I did not want to seem inferior to those high society ladies. The event was held in the garden of a 5-star hotel by the river. The guests were influential personalities from the business and social world. Brittany appeared, dazzling like a queen, surrounded by her friends. Upon seeing me enter, she smiled maliciously and approached to take my arm with fake kindness. "Look, everyone. I present to you Emily, my James's stepmother. She comes from a small town, but she was lucky enough to marry Mr. Peterson. A modern Cinderella, don't you think?" Giggles were heard, and curious stares pierced me like knives. I heard Emily had trouble finding a husband. "Fishing Mr. Peterson was like winning the lottery," said one of Brittany's friends sarcastically. "Emily, Mr. Peterson is already old." "In intimacy, I suppose you lose out, right?" added another maliciously. The blood rushed to my face. They were trying to humiliate me publicly. I took a deep breath. I maintained a serene smile and responded to each one. "Thank you for your interest in my private life. It is true my origin is humble, but I am proud to have reached here by my own effort, without depending on my parents' fortune. As for my marriage, whether we are happy or not is our business. We do not need anyone to judge us, and I believe modern women should talk about business or culture instead of gossiping about the intimate lives of others. Don't you agree?" My sharp response left them speechless. Some older ladies nearby nodded with approval. Brittany, furious, was about to reply when a deep voice sounded behind us. "My wife is right. Our happiness is nobody's business." I turned around. Matt was approaching. He was wearing an elegant suit that gave him a distinguished air, very different from his usual image. He stood by my side, wrapped his arm around my waist with a possessive gesture, and looked at Brittany and her friends sternly. "Brittany, I'm very disappointed in you. I thought you were a polite girl, but I see your behavior is in very poor taste. Emily is my legitimate wife and James's stepmother. Insulting her is insulting me and my family." Brittany paled. "Mr. Peterson, I was only joking." "Joking?" Matt snorted. "From now on, if anyone disrespects my wife again, do not expect me to have any respect for them." He turned to me and said tenderly, "Let's go, honey. This place is too loud. I do not like it." He took my hand and led me out of there, leaving everyone present stunned and silent. I walked by his side with my head held high, proud. Today I had not only defeated Brittany, but also my own fears. After the incident at the tea party, Brittany remained silent. James, who seemed to have heard what happened, softened his attitude toward me, although he still kept his distance. Married life regained a temporary calm. Taking advantage of the weekend, I decided to take Matt to my hometown to introduce him to my parents. It was what worried me the most. My parents were very traditional. My mother dreamed of a rich son-in-law, and my father valued honor above all else. The fact that I had married a man 22 years older than me and that he was a cook, I still hadn't dared to reveal his true fortune to them. Without a doubt, it would be a shock for them. While we drove down the highway, I noticed Matt was also somewhat tense. He had prepared countless gifts, from expensive ham and vintage wine to imported sweets. Hey, what if we tell them the truth, that I'm a major shareholder? That way, they will be calmer, he suggested. No, absolutely not, I shook my head. If you tell them you are rich, my mother will think I married you for money, and the neighbors will start gossiping. It is better they see first how you really are. My parents appreciate good, hard-working people. Upon arriving at the entrance of the town, my high-end car attracted all eyes. My parents came out to greet us smiling, but my mother's smile vanished as soon as she saw Matt get out of the car. Hello, good morning. I am Matt, Emily's husband, he said, bowing his head with respect. My mother stood paralyzed, looking him up and down, and then turned to me. Emily, are you kidding me? Is this your father-in-law or your husband? Mom, it is Matt, my husband, I said, mortified. My father was calmer, but his face had darkened. He invited us in to have a drink. The atmosphere in the house was tense, heavy. How old are you, sir? My father asked with a cold voice. 55, Matt replied. 55, my mother exclaimed, but he is older than your brother. Good Lord, what has this man done to you, Emily, for you to marry someone who could be your father? My mother burst into tears, lamenting. She said I had embarrassed her in front of the whole town, that I had thrown away my education to end up with an old man. Her words were like daggers. I was about to defend my husband when Matt signaled me to be quiet. He got up and went to the kitchen. Folks, I know you are disappointed. With your permission, I am going to prepare lunch as an apology. After eating with a full stomach, we can talk more calmly. My mother tried to stop him, but my father gestured to her. Let him. I want to see what he knows how to do. Matt rolled up his sleeves and started preparing the ingredients he had brought. In less than an hour, a delicious aroma invaded the whole house. The table filled with delicacies, roasted suckling pig, bean stew, pepper salad, and garlic chicken. Every dish was presented like in a luxury restaurant. My parents looked at the food, swallowing hard. Their initial anger had dissipated a little before such a feast. Please help yourselves, Matt said, serving my parents with kindness and respect. My father tasted the roast and his eyes lit up. Not bad. He cooks better than at the town weddings, he murmured. During the meal, Matt told his story with humility. He did not hide that he was a widower and had children, but emphasized his loneliness and his desire to find someone to share his life with. He spoke of his sincere love for me and his longing to take care of me for the rest of his days. When we finished, Matt took a savings book and a life insurance policy out of his briefcase and put them on the table. Folks, I know I am older and my health is not that of a young man, but I have prepared for Emily's future. This is a savings account with $1 million exclusively for her, and this is a life insurance policy where she is the sole beneficiary. I guarantee you that whatever happens, Emily will have a comfortable life and will not have to worry about money. My parents were left open-mouthed seeing the figure in the book. $1 million in this town was an immense fortune. His sincerity added to the solid financial guarantee, finished convincing them. My mother wiped her tears, and her tone softened. Well, if my daughter chose you, it must be for a reason. Although you are older, it is clear you are a good man and that you truly love her. I just want her to be happy. I sighed in relief and smiled at Matt. We had passed the hardest test. That night, I slept in my old room, listening to the chirping of crickets. I felt immense peace. I knew I had chosen the right man. A month after the successful family introduction, our marriage grew stronger. Although Matt was busy as James's unofficial advisor, he kept the custom of preparing dinner for me every night. Those meals were my refuge against the stress of my new position. But the calm did not last long. The day that would have been the 80th birthday of James's grandmother, Matt's mother, was approaching. Although she had passed away years ago, Matt always held a mass in her memory. This year, James decided to organize a huge party at the family mansion to invite partners and relatives, taking the opportunity to officially introduce Brittany as his fiancée. I received the invitation from James himself. He handed it to me with a cold expression, though without the hostility from before. "Be punctual. My father wants you there." The Peterson Mansion, in an exclusive gated community outside the city, was an impressive classic-style villa of over 10,000 square feet. When we arrived, the garden was already full of luxury cars, crystal chandeliers, classical music, and the social elite dressed in gala attire. I grabbed Matt's arm tightly, feeling a bit overwhelmed. Despite my success, the luxury of billionaires still made me feel small. "Do not fear. I am here," Matt whispered, squeezing my hand. We entered the main hall and all eyes landed on us. Matt, in a black tuxedo and bow tie, looked like a different man, imposing and distinguished. I wore an emerald green evening gown with my hair up and the pearls Matt had given me. "Stepmother," James approached to greet us. His voice sounded forced, calling me that. "Hello, son," Matt replied. "Has everyone arrived?" "Almost everyone. Brittany's parents and my uncles just arrived." Just then, a middle-aged couple approached, elegantly dressed. Mr. and Mrs. Worthington. Brittany's parents. With them came their daughter, dazzling in a fire-red dress, shooting me a challenging look. "Hello, Matt," said Mr. Worthington, shaking his hand with a smile that did not hide his interest. "How elegant you look. I heard you married a young woman." Finally, we meet her. Mrs. Worthington examined me up and down and pursed her lips. "Wow, so this is Emily. Well, in person she does not look like much. You must have some secret to have conquered Matt, whom so many heiresses have not been able to reach." Her words were loaded with poison. I smiled politely. "Good evening. I do not believe love needs secrets. Only sincerity." "Sincerity?" she mocked. "Does sincerity put food on the table? Or is it a sincerity that comes accompanied by a good percentage of group shares?" The atmosphere tensed. The guests began to whisper. Matt's face darkened. "Letitia, today is a day of celebration." "I beg you to keep your manners." "Oh, I only say what I think," she replied. "Matt, I tell you as your future in-law, you are older. Sometimes the head does not work like before, and it is easy to get tricked." "I heard you have not signed a prenup. Is that true?" Matt frowned. "That is a private matter of my family." "What do you mean private?" intervened Mr. Worthington. "Your assets will one day be James's, and James is going to marry our Brittany. We cannot allow a stranger to take advantage of our children's inheritance. Since we are all here, I propose you sign a document right now before a notary making clear what assets are yours before the marriage. If this young lady truly loves you, surely she will have no problem signing, right?" The whole room fell silent. It was not a proposal, it was an ambush. They wanted to corner me, force me to prove my innocence by renouncing my legal rights. Brittany smiled, triumphant. She thought I would be embarrassed, get angry, or run away scared. I looked around. James remained silent, watching me with a complex look. He did not fully trust me either. I took a deep breath, let go of Matt's arm, and took a step forward. "Mr. and Mrs. Worthington, distinguished guests." My voice sounded clear and firm. "I know what you are thinking. You think I am a gold digger. But let me tell you, I married Matt because he is the best man I have ever met, not for his position, nor for his fortune. If you want me to sign an agreement for your peace of mind, I am willing to do it right now. I do not want a single cent of Matt's personal assets." "Talk is cheap," said Mrs. Worthington with disdain. "We want to see it in writing." "Enough!" Matt's shout resonated like thunder, startling everyone. He stepped between us, his face red with rage. He looked at the Worthington couple with deep disappointment. Fernando, Letitia, I considered you friends, and that is why I invited you. But you have dared to humiliate my wife in my own house. You think because I am old, I am stupid. I know perfectly well who approaches me for love and who for money. He turned to James severely. James, and you stand there watching how they insult your stepmother? You allow your future wife's parents to cause this scene in our house? James lowered his head. Dad, I think they only want what is best for me. Best for you? Matt laughed bitterly. What worries them is that this family's assets get divided and affect their daughter's interests. Open your eyes for once. He turned to me, took my hand firmly, and declared before everyone present, Today, before all of you, I announce that I will not sign any agreement. My wife, Emily Richardson, will have full right to inherit my assets according to the law if I pass away. And not only that, Matt paused and took a thick envelope out of his jacket pocket. This is the transfer of shares my lawyer prepared this morning. I immediately cede 10% of my personal shares in Hercules to my son, James Peterson. The rest I will keep for my retirement and to take care of my wife. Emily is not as ambitious as you think. It was she who encouraged me to hand over power to James as soon as possible, so he could lead the group with full confidence. The entire room exclaimed with astonishment. 10% of Hercules was equal to hundreds of millions of dollars. With this gesture, Matt reaffirmed his authority, defended my honor, and reassured James. The Worthingtons paled. Their plan to force me to renounce my rights had completely backfired. After Matt's shocking declaration, the party atmosphere became unbreathable. Mr. Worthington tried to save appearances with a forced smile. Matt, do not take it like that. We were only worrying about the future. That you cede the shares to James is great news, an early wedding gift. Yes, we are family. Do not get angry, added his wife. But Matt did not smile. Family? I have never seen a family so calculating, distrustful, and willing to trample on the honor of others. If you despise my wife, you despise me. And I tell you one thing, this wedding, I am going to have to reconsider it. Brittany, hearing that, clung to James's arm. James, say something. Your father wants to annul our engagement. Are you going to let them do this to me? James pulled away from her grip. His expression had changed completely. He looked at the transfer document in his father's hand and then looked at me. In his eyes, there was no longer suspicion, but regret and a belated understanding. Dad, he said with a hoarse voice, do you really trust me that much? Do you not fear I will take these shares and kick you and her out of the company? You are my son. Matt put a hand on his shoulder. I trust the blood running through your veins, and I trust Emily. She has never asked me for a single dollar for herself. On the contrary, she always reminds me that I must worry about your feelings. It was she who told me you felt insecure in your position, and that is why I decided to cede the shares to you. James turned to me. I smiled at him and nodded. I did not need his gratitude, only for him to understand that I was not his enemy. He took a deep breath and faced Brittany's family. Mr. Worthington, ma'am, thank you for worrying about my assets, but my father is right. Respect is the basis of any relationship. You, and also you, Brittany, have only worried about my father's money and your own interests, without caring about others' feelings. Today you insulted my stepmother. Tomorrow will you insult my father if he runs out of money? James, what are you saying? Shouted Brittany. I love you for real. You love me? James laughed with disdain. Or do you want my position as CEO? You and your parents had already planned to merge your company with Hercules as soon as we got married to take control? Did you think I did not know? Brittany was left speechless, pale as a ghost. I declare, said James with a firm voice, resonating throughout the hall, "that the engagement between Brittany Worthington and I is officially broken. I cannot marry a woman so calculating and who disrespects my family in this way." "You dare!" shouted Mr. Worthington, pointing at James. "Do you know the consequences of this? Hercules shares are going to tank. I will withdraw all my investment." "Go ahead," replied James calmly. "Hercules has grown on its own merit, not on your loans. If the shares drop, my father, my stepmother, and I will raise them together. We do not need dirty money." Mr. Worthington, choked with rage, dragged his wife and daughter. "Let's go. We have nothing to do in this nest of vipers." The Worthington family left humiliated. The other guests, after a few minutes of whispering, also started to leave, leaving behind a party in ruins. But in the middle of that disaster, I felt a new bond was being forged. James approached us and bowed his head deeply. "Dad, I am sorry. I have been blind and selfish. And I am sorry, Emily. You have suffered a lot because of me." Matt, with teary eyes, hugged his son. I could not contain the emotion either. Finally, after so many storms, the wall separating us had crumbled. "Do not worry, James," I told him, putting a hand on his shoulder. "We are a family. What is important now is that we are united to face the difficulties that will come in the company." James looked up with a determined gaze. "Yes, I will not let you down." That night, the three of us sat on the porch, drinking tea and looking at the moon. There was no longer distance between stepmother and stepson, nor suspicions about money, only warm family affection. I knew the road ahead would not be easy, especially with the Worthington family's revenge, but I was sure that, united, we would overcome any obstacle. After the notorious breakup of the engagement, as expected, the Hercules group faced difficulties. Mr. Worthington withdrew his capital and spread malicious rumors that caused the stock price to fall. But with the union of the three of us and Matt's prestige, the company stabilized little by little. James matured notably, working tirelessly. I also put all my effort into the communications area to rebuild the brand image. In the middle of that whirlwind, a new character appeared who added more changes to my life. Chloe, Matt's youngest daughter and his late wife's child, James's sister. Chloe was 25 and studying for a master's in art in Europe. She had a liberal, independent character and rarely returned home. I only knew her from the photos Matt had in his office. A girl with curly hair, a radiant smile, and expressive eyes. The day Chloe was returning, Matt had a shareholders meeting, so he asked me to pick her up at the airport. I was very nervous. James had already accepted the situation. But what about Chloe? Daughters tend to be more sensitive, and besides, living abroad, would she accept a stepmother who was only 8 years older than her? I prepared myself for a new psychological battle. In the arrivals terminal at the airport, I held a sign that said, "Welcome home, Chloe," while fixing my clothes. Among the crowd coming out, I looked for the girl in the photo. "Hey, are you Emily?" A voice with a slight British accent surprised me. I turned around. A young woman with a very modern style, ripped jeans, a crop top, and blue streaks in her hair, was staring at me. She dragged a huge suitcase and chewed gum. "Hello, Chloe, I am Emily, your father's wife," I said, not knowing quite how to treat her. Chloe observed me for an instant and suddenly threw herself at me to hug me, shouting, "OMG, you are way younger and prettier than in the photos." My dad really knows what he is doing. I thought he had married some bitter old lady, and turns out he found a treasure. I stood frozen, rigid in her arms. Her reaction was totally unexpected. "You do not hate me?" I asked hesitantly when she let me go. "Hate you? Why?" She shrugged, smiling from ear to ear. "My mom died a long time ago." Seeing my dad alone all these years broke my heart. James and I always told him to get married again, but he never wanted to. Now that he has found someone he likes and who is also as pretty and smart as you, I could not be happier. That said, I will call you Emily, okay? Stepmother sounds like a stale fairy tale. I burst out laughing. The weight I felt vanished completely. This girl was incredible, direct and modern. On the way home, Chloe did not stop talking. She told me everything, her studies, her boyfriends, and how she made fun of her brother James. Hey, they told me James broke up with that stuck-up Brittany. Thank goodness I hated her. Every time she saw me, she criticized my clothes and gave me lessons on how to be a lady. I wanted to throw a glass of water in her face. If they had gotten married, I would have run away from home. Brittany's family is causing us a lot of problems in the company, I commented. Bah, do not worry. If we are united, we can handle anything. I came back to lend a hand. I studied art, but I know something about design and creativity. I am going to ask for a job as your employee. Be nice to me, boss. She winked at me. Upon arriving home, Matt was waiting for us at the door. Upon seeing his daughter, his face lit up. Chloe ran into his arms, affectionate like a little girl. Dad, I missed you so much. You're thinner. Are you not eating well there? He said, stroking her hair. The food there is gross, Dad. I miss your stew. Although now that Emily is here, I suppose you cook less, right? Not at all. He cooks for me every day, I replied, smiling. Dinner that night was the most joyful since I entered the Peterson family. Chloe's laughter filled the house with life. James arrived late from work, but was very happy to see his sister. The two spent dinner joking and fighting for the last croquette, like when they were kids. Matt and I looked at each other, smiling happily. Finally, this family was complete. Chloe's return was like a breath of fresh air that dissipated the last remains of discomfort between James and Matt. Although James had accepted me, there was still an invisible barrier between father and son. The wounds of the past, from when Matt buried himself in work and neglected his family, had not fully healed in James. Chloe, very perceptive, realized it. One night, she took me to a corner. Hey, Emily, I notice my dad and James are very distant. James keeps calling him chairman at home when they talk work. I want to organize an outing for them to open up. Will you help me? Sure. But where do we go? James is very busy. No need to go far. Let's go to a tapas bar. Well, a small diner. When Mom was alive, we went to a very small one in the old neighborhood. We haven't been back in years. The plan was set in motion. On Saturday night, Chloe insisted James take her to eat greasy spoon food with the excuse that she missed the flavors of home. James accepted reluctantly. Matt and I were also dragged along. The diner was in an alley with plastic tables and a noisy atmosphere. James, with his shirt and dress pants, looked uncomfortable in that low chair. This place does not seem very clean, Chloe. Why don't we go to a restaurant? He complained. Come on, fries taste better in a place like this. Do not be so picky. Chloe cut him off, ordering a round of spicy fries, calamari, and garlic shrimp. Matt looked at the place with nostalgia. This bar has not changed in 20 years. Your mother loved the calamari here. Every time I got paid, I brought the three of you to celebrate. James fell silent, looking at the plate of steaming calamari. Memories of his childhood returned. His smiling mother, his young and cheerful father. Days of scarcity, but full of happiness. Dad, said James suddenly, with a broken voice, I remember once I lost my bicycle and you gave me a beating right here, in this alley. I got so angry. I thought you only cared about money, not me. Matt remained thoughtful and smiled sadly. Of course I remember. After hitting you, I cried all night. It was not about the money. It was because you had lied to me. I was afraid you would go down the wrong path. Back then, the pressure to make money was enormous, and I was too hard on you. I am sorry, son. Matt filled James's glass and his own. James, I know I have not been a perfect father. I lost a lot of time away from you. Now I am old and I just want to see you happy. I left you the company because I know you are better than I was. Do not pressure yourself so much. James raised his glass, his hand trembling. He looked at his father with reddened eyes. I am not angry anymore, Dad. Since Mom died, I have seen you very lonely. I love you very much, but I do not know how to show it. I took refuge in work to prove to you I could do it so you would notice me, but I felt further and further from you." "You are so silly," intervened Chloe, also with teary eyes. "Dad has always been proud of you. He always tells me his son James is the best in the world." "It is true," I added. "Matt talks about you a lot. He keeps all the press clippings about you, your diplomas since school, in a wooden trunk in his room." James stood frozen. He had never known. He looked at his father and suddenly clinked his glass with his. "To you, Dad. Thank you for giving me life and raising me." Matt smiled with the most radiant smile I had ever seen. The two men drained their glasses, as if drinking years of misunderstandings with them. That dinner of bar food was more delicious than any delicacy. We laughed. We remembered old times. We joked. James stripped off his CEO armor and went back to being the big brother, close and fun. Leaving, James put an arm around Matt's shoulders. Father and son walked together, and their shadows merged under the streetlights. I knew that, from that moment on, this family would be an indestructible block, and I was very lucky to be part of it. 3 months after Chloe's return, the atmosphere at Hercules was one of frenetic activity. The combination of Matt's experience, James's audacity, and my communication strategies helped the company overcome the crisis. Shares not only recovered, but grew spectacularly. The most important business event of the year was approaching, the Business Summit at the Convention Center, a meeting that brought together the most powerful figures in the economy and an opportunity for Hercules to reaffirm its position. "Emily, tonight you are coming with me." James entered my office and left a golden invitation on the table. "Dad says he does not like these events and prefers to stay home watching a movie with Chloe. Besides, it is a good occasion for you to present yourself in society as Vice President of Hercules." I picked up the invitation, excited and nervous. I knew it was not a simple party, but the stage to prove to the world that I was not just an ornament next to Matt. "All right, I will go. I will prepare so I do not embarrass you, boss," I said, smiling. That night, I chose a black evening gown, elegant and sophisticated. I put my hair up, highlighting the pearl necklace Matt had given me. James was impeccable in a navy blue suit. We entered the hall together and immediately attracted the attention of the press and guests. "Isn't that James Peterson from Hercules? And who is with him? It is his young stepmother. They say she is behind the campaign that saved Hercules." "She is no dummy," I heard the murmurs, but I kept a secure smile and my head high. During the cocktail hour, we ran into Brittany. She was with her father. She looked more haggard, but her gaze was still full of resentment. "Hello, James." "Hello, stepmother," she said, emphasizing the word with irony. "I did not know Hercules still had the face to come here after so many scandals." "Hercules does clean business. We have nothing to be ashamed of," replied James coldly. "Only those who sabotage from behind should feel shame." Mr. Worthington intervened with a mocking laugh. "You talk a lot, James, but business is war. I heard your resort division is having trouble finding international investors, right? What a pity." "We just signed an exclusive contract with the largest investment fund in Singapore." He was trying to rub salt in the wound. It was true we had difficulties expanding abroad. I smiled and took a step forward. "Mr. Worthington, congratulations on your contract. But according to my information, that fund specializes in short-term and speculative projects. The current market trend is sustainable development and ecotourism. Hercules goes slower, but on sure footing. We are negotiating with a leading European hotel group focused on cultural experience and environmental protection." "That is the future of tourism, sir." Mr. Worthington stood perplexed. He did not expect me to be so well informed. The businessmen around started paying attention. "And what would you know?" he stammered. "I am the Vice President of Communications and International Relations for Hercules," I said with a firm voice, looking him in the eyes. "Not only do I know, but I know very well that your business model is becoming obsolete. If you do not adapt, I am afraid that Singapore contract will be a ticking time bomb." I continued analyzing growth figures and market trends, with data and convincing arguments. My voice sounded secure, and my knowledge left everyone in silence. The looks of disdain transformed into respect. Upon finishing my improvised presentation, applause rang out. A handsome foreign man, blonde, approached. "Fantastic. Your analysis is brilliant. I am David, Asia representative for the Marriott Group. I had heard of Hercules, but today your vision impressed me. Could we talk more in detail?" I looked at James. He was smiling at me with pride. We had won a crucial battle and opened a golden opportunity. Brittany and her father stood nailed to the spot, pale. They wanted to use the summit to sink us, and instead it became my launch platform. That night, Emily Richardson's name was mentioned in business circles not as Matt's wife or James's stepmother, but as a bold, intelligent, and powerful businesswoman. After the success at the summit, my work intensified, but Matt always found a way to take me out of the routine to enjoy the little things. It had been 100 days since our wedding. I thought he would forget, but upon arriving home, I got a surprise that made me cry. The apartment was decorated with candles and roses. On the table, my favorite dishes, cooked by him. But the most special thing was that he was wearing a pink apron with 2 hugging teddy bears, the absurd gift Chloe had given him. "Welcome home, my love," he said, smiling and opening his arms. What a surprise! I hugged him, inhaling his familiar scent. "I thought you had forgotten." "How was I going to forget the luckiest day of my life?" he whispered, kissing my hair. The celebration was intimate and sweet. Chloe and James came to congratulate us, but left early to leave us alone. However, the next morning, the peace was broken by the arrival of an unexpected visitor. A middle-aged woman, dressed elegantly but with a severe face, came with a lawyer. "Hello, Matt," said the woman with a cutting voice. "Laura, what are you doing here?" Matt was surprised. It was his late wife's sister, James, and Chloe's aunt. She lived abroad and rarely returned. Laura ignored me and looked at me with scrutiny. "I suppose this is your new wife. How young?" "Hello, I am Emily," I greeted politely. Laura sat down and signaled the lawyer. "I came to fulfill my sister's last wish. She left a supplementary will that goes into effect now." "A supplementary will? Why didn't I know?" Matt frowned. "Because she stipulated it only be opened if you remarried," said Laura coldly. "She feared a new woman would mistreat her children or only seek your money. That is why she left a sum of $25 million. We were stunned. It was an astronomical figure. "That money will be for Miss Emily," she said, pointing at me, "on one condition." "What condition?" I asked, my heart racing. "That your marriage lasts at least a year and that, right in this moment, you sign a document of renunciation." The lawyer passed me the paper. It was a document where I renounced any other future assets of Matt. Except for those $25 million, it was a trade. $25 million in exchange for renouncing my rights as a wife. "It is the way my sister protects James and Chloe's inheritance," explained Laura. "If you truly love Matt and are not greedy, $25 million is more than enough. If you do not sign, you will prove you aspire to the Hercules fortune." The tension was palpable. Matt was red with rage. "Laura, are you crossing the line? My wife died years ago. Why set up this circus now to test Emily? I only fulfill her will. Well, Emily, do you sign or not? It is a lot of money. You could live like a queen the rest of your life without having to pretend you are a devoted wife." All eyes landed on me. James and Chloe looked at me worried, Matt with anguish, and Laura with defiance. I left the paper on the table. "Ms. Laura, I deeply respect your late sister and her concern for her family. $25 million is an immense amount, more than I could ever dream of. But I am not going to sign this document." Laura smiled with disdain. I knew it. "Seems little to you, right? Do you want to keep it all?" "No." I shook my head firmly. "I am not signing because this paper is an insult to my feelings for Matt. I married him because I love him, to take care of him the rest of my life, not for a one-year contract nor for an inheritance. A marriage is forever, not a transaction. I picked up the document and tore it in two before Laura's astonished gaze. As for the $25 million, if it is your sister's wish, I will accept them. But not for me. I will use all the money to create a charitable foundation with Matt's late wife's name to help underprivileged children and cancer patients. That way, her will is fulfilled and good is done. I will not touch a single cent for my personal use. The room fell silent. Laura looked at me, incredulous, James and Chloe with admiration. Matt squeezed my hand with eyes full of tears. "Are you serious?" stammered Laura. "Completely. The lawyer can draft the foundation's bylaws right now. I will sign them happily." My response completely disarmed Laura. She sighed and her gaze softened. Perhaps finally she understood why Matt had chosen me. The news about the will and my decision to create the foundation reached the ears of the most influential person in James's maternal family, his grandfather, the father of Matt's late wife. He was a former high-ranking official, retired, famous for his strict character and his insight. Even Matt had feared him in his day. A week later, I received a summons from the grandfather. He wanted to see me at his country house. Matt was worried. My father-in-law is very difficult. He always thought no one could replace his daughter. Be careful what you say. If he says something unpleasant, do not answer him. Relax. I know how to behave, I assured him, though inside I was trembling. The grandfather's house was an old estate, surrounded by fruit trees, a solemn and silent place. I entered the living room and saw an old man with white hair and beard, sitting drinking tea. His eyes, incredibly lucid, pierced me. Beside him was Laura. "Good morning, sir," I said, bowing my head. He did not answer. He only indicated for me to sit. He poured me a cup of tea. "So you are Emily." His voice was deep and powerful. "Yes, sir." "Laura told me about the other day. You rejected $25 million to do charity, a noble gesture, but I want to know the truth. Did you do it to win my favor or because you really felt it?" I looked him in the eyes without shying away. "Sir, I did it because my conscience dictated it. When I met Matt, I already had my own career and could support myself. I do not need anyone's money to be happy. Besides, I respect your late daughter. She dedicated her life to her family. That money should be used to honor her memory, not for my enjoyment." The grandfather kept a long silence, scrutinizing me. Suddenly, he asked, "Do you know what flaws Matt has?" I was surprised, but I smiled. "Yes, sir. He snores very loudly. He messes up the whole kitchen when he cooks, and then I have to clean it up. And he eats sweets in secret even though the doctor told him to control his sugar." The grandfather let out a loud laugh, a sound that filled the whole house. Even Laura smiled. "Good, very good. Only a wife who lives with him and truly loves him knows those little quirks. I feared you only saw the chairman in him, the millionaire." He put down the cup and looked at me more kindly. "I am old. I just want to see my grandchildren happy. Laura worries excessively, but it is normal. This family has a lot that others can covet, but by your behavior and your answers, I think you are a good person. Matt chose well." He got up, went to another room, and returned with a small wooden box. He opened it. Inside was an emerald bracelet, an antique jewel of incalculable value. This bracelet belonged to my wife, who gave it to my daughter, and she entrusted it to me. She told me if Matt remarried, to give it to the woman who deserved it, to the woman who could take care of him and the children in her place. Today I give it to you. I got so emotional I could not speak. I took the box with trembling hands. "Thank you, sir. I promise to take care of it and take care of the family." "Put it on, child," he said, changing his tone. I put on the bracelet. The cold of the gems was like a seal of acceptance, a transmission of trust. When I left, Matt was waiting for me at the door, nervous. Upon seeing me smile with the bracelet on my wrist, he sighed in relief and ran to hug me. "You did it. My father-in-law accepted you." I rested my head on his shoulder, crying with happiness. I had overcome the last and most difficult obstacle. Now I, Emily Richardson, was not only Matt's wife, but an official, respected, and loved member of this great family. My life after the grandfather's approval became calm and full. I no longer worried about looks or rumors. Our small family was full of laughter, especially at weekend dinners with James and Chloe. But lately my body was behaving strangely. I was always tired, sleepy, and very sensitive to smells. That morning, while Matt fried some eggs, the smell of oil turned my stomach. I ran to the bathroom to throw up. Matt came behind, alarmed. "What is wrong? Did something you ate sit wrong? Let's go to the doctor." I shook my head. An idea crossed my mind. I was 2 weeks late. "Matt, wait for me outside a moment." I closed the door and looked for a pregnancy test in the medicine cabinet. The 5 minutes of waiting were eternal. My heart beat strongly, and then 2 red lines appeared. I was pregnant. Really? I went out, trembling, with the test in my hand. Matt, very worried, was waiting for me. "Emily, are you okay? Do not scare me." I said nothing. I only showed him the test. He took it, looked at it without understanding at first, and then his eyes opened wide. This is," he stammered. "Are you going to be a father again?" I said, smiling through tears of happiness. Matt stood paralyzed for an instant and then shouted with joy, lifting me in his arms and spinning me around. "I am going to be a dad. I am going to be a dad." He put me down and hugged me so tight I almost ran out of air. I felt his shoulders shake. He was crying. That man of almost 60, who had overcome so many battles, was crying like a child at that unexpected news. "Thank you, my love. Thank you for this wonderful gift," he whispered. But after the euphoria, his face darkened. "But Emily, I am already old. I am 56. When our child starts school, I will be over 60. I am afraid of not having strength to take care of him. Not being able to play football with him, people will talk." I covered his mouth with a finger. "Do not say nonsense. You are strong and have more energy than many young people, and a child is a blessing. We will raise him together. I will be a good mother, and you will be the best father, full of experience and love. Do not worry about anything." That night, we broke the news to James and Chloe. Their reaction surprised me. "Really? I am going to have a little brother?" shouted Chloe, jumping on the sofa. "How cool! Surely he is as handsome as you and as smart as Dad." I called dibs on choosing the name. James, calmer, smiled from ear to ear. He approached his father, shook his hand, and then told me, "Congratulations, Dad, and congratulations to you, Emily. A new member in the family is a blessing. You rest and take care of yourself. I will handle work. I promise to be a good big brother." Seeing his enthusiasm, all my worries dissipated. This baby would be born surrounded by immense love. The first months of pregnancy were difficult. The nausea was terrible. I lost weight and got pale. Matt, worried, put aside his advisor tasks to take care of me full time. He studied nutrition books, prepared special menus for me, but I threw up everything I ate. One night at 2 a.m, I got a terrible craving for tomato soup. I could not sleep. Matt woke up. "What is wrong? Do you feel bad?" "Honey, I am dying for tomato soup," I said, feeling guilty. I thought he would tell me to wait until morning, but he jumped up. "I will prepare it for you right now." "But where are you going to get tomatoes at this hour?" "In the fridge. There are the ones your mother brought from the village. Wait half an hour." He went down to the kitchen. I heard the noise of the blender. I went to look and saw him, concentrated, preparing the soup. Seeing my husband, with his gray hair, cooking for me at dawn, I burst out crying with happiness. Half an hour later, he brought me a bowl of cold soup. "Perfect. Eat, it is fresh," he said, sitting by my side. I ate it all. It was the best soup of my life. Thank you, my love. I love you more than anything, I told him, resting my head on his shoulder. Silly. We are a marriage. I just want you and the baby to be well, he replied, stroking my hair. From the 5th month, the nausea disappeared and I started gaining weight. We started thinking of names. Sophia sounds elegant, proposed Chloe. Too common. Better Lucy, light of the family, said James. Those are very serious names, said Matt. I want something simple. That means happiness. What if we call her Joy? I suggested, stroking my belly. She has brought much joy to our lives. Joy, I love it, applauded Matt. Decided. Our daughter will be named Joy Peterson Richardson. During the pregnancy, I saw a change in Matt. He rejuvenated. He was always smiling. He even signed up for birthing classes to learn how to bathe and change diapers on the baby. Seeing a man of his age practicing with a doll, surrounded by first-time parents, made me laugh and softened my heart. Our love was not the passion of youth, but a deep bond of care and silent sacrifice. The due date arrived, but Joy did not want to come out. The doctor said that due to the size, it would probably be a C-section. I was very nervous. One night, under a thunderstorm, I began to feel contractions, intense and regular pain. Matt, it hurts, I screamed. He woke up with a jump, pale. Did your water break? Should I call an ambulance? He was so nervous he dropped the phone. Calm down, call James, let him drive us. 5 minutes later, we were on our way to the hospital. James drove, Chloe was in the back with the bags, and Matt held my hand, whispering words of encouragement. After 6 hours of pain, they took me to the delivery room. Matt entered with me. Push, honey, she is almost here. Between the doctor's shouts and Matt's words, I gathered my last strength and pushed. Wah! Wah! A baby's cry filled the room, erasing all the pain. The midwife placed a small creature on my chest. Congratulations, it is a girl, 7.5 pounds. She is perfect. I looked at Matt. He was crying inconsolably, looking at his daughter. He brought a trembling finger to her cheek and then kissed my forehead. Thank you, my love. She's beautiful, just like you, he said with a broken voice. In that moment, Matt looked like a young man again. The happiness of being a father in maturity was something sacred and moving. Time flew. Joy is already 3 years old. Hercules is a business empire. James is the CEO, a brilliant leader. Chloe has opened her own art gallery. I am still vice president, but I work more from home. The busiest of all is Matt. He has retired to be a full-time father. He takes Joy to daycare, does the shopping, cooks, and plays with her. Seeing that white-haired man carrying his little girl, singing nursery rhymes. It is an image that touches anyone. One weekend afternoon, we went to the zoo. While Matt held Joy so she could feed the giraffes, I ran into someone unexpected. It was Brittany. She was alone, much thinner, and with a sad air. Upon seeing me, she tried to leave, but I called her. Hello, Brittany. Long time no see? She stopped and smiled timidly. Hello, Emily. You look just as beautiful. We talked a little. After the breakup, her family went bankrupt. Her father ended up in jail for fraud, and she had to sell everything to pay debts. Now she works as a sales rep in a small company. She got married, but the marriage failed. You look so happy, she said, looking at Matt and Joy with a mixture of sadness and regret. I was stupid. I thought money and status were everything. Now I know the most valuable thing is peace, next to the person you love. Life is long, Brittany. We all deserve a second chance. I hope you find your happiness, I told her with sincerity. She nodded. She thanked me and left. I watched her walk away without resentment, only with compassion. Mommy, Daddy bought me ice cream. Joy's little voice brought me back to reality. She ran to my arms with a strawberry ice cream. Matt came behind, wiping her sweat. James and Chloe joined us with drinks. Mommy, I had a great time. Tomorrow we go to another place, Daddy, said Joy. Sure, tomorrow to the amusement park, and at night, stew for everyone. "How does that sound?" said Matt, pinching her cheek. "Yes," shouted the three children, James and Chloe included. I looked around at the faces of the people I loved and felt infinite gratitude. A few years ago, I was a desperate spinster. An impulsive decision in a bar led me to this man, and he has given me everything I could dream of: a home, true love, and a wonderful family. I took Matt's hand. He turned and looked at me with the same warmth as the first day. "Thank you, my favorite cook." Matt smiled and squeezed my hand. "Thank you for having the courage to choose me." Under the golden afternoon sun, our family walked united toward the future, a future full of warmth and happiness that awaited us.